Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to build a very simple and very efficient witch farm for your world. Now because we're playing on Bedrock Edition, this witch farm looks a little bit different than what you might expect. We're using a super overpowered villager breeder to get a ton of villagers very quickly, and then we also have an automatic lightning detection circuit so that as soon as a lightning storm starts, all of your villagers will be hit with lightning and turned into witches where you can then kill them or do whatever you want, and that allows us to get a ton of witch drops reasonably quickly. This is an excellent source of gunpowder. So while this design it might look very similar to the previous witch farm design that I did, it's actually far superior in many ways. For instance, the villager breeder that we're using to power this entire thing is actually a brand new design that is completely reliable and a clean villager breeder as well. So these guys will never glitch out of here or die or get struck by lightning or anything crazy like that. So another really nice safety system of this design is a simple counting circuit. You can tell it to breed as many villagers as you like, anywhere from 1 to as many items as you feel like throwing in there. Each item will account for approximately 1 villager, and as soon as it has bred that many villagers, the entire system will churn off within about 30 or so seconds, and that's really just to prevent the farm from breeding hundreds and thousands of villagers uncontrollably and lagging out your entire world. So another nice improvement to this design is an automatic lightning detection circuit. Basically what we have is a little bit of a trident killer that automatically strikes a witch whenever it starts to be a thunderstorm, and that'll turn all of the villagers in your containment cell into witches, which is extremely convenient, and that basically makes it so that you can completely AFK at this farm. No worries about any form of lag or missing thunderstorms or anything like that. It is a fully AFK design. And there's one more thing that you should know about this witch farm. What you see before you hear is pretty much the recommended max size for this farm, using 25 villager breeding pairs. You can of course have as many breeding pairs as you like, anywhere from 1 to of course 25, which is kind of just the maximum that I would say that you should have. So don't feel like you need to build all of this. You only really need 1 villager breeding pair, and even that will provide you with a ton of villagers pretty quickly. So there's really only 2 cons to this system, the main one being that you need to actually come through here and throw food to all of your villagers so that they may breed. However, you really only need to do that occasionally, because just a couple stacks of food will actually provide you with a ton of babies. From each pair, they seriously produce a lot of babies very quickly. And the second con is that you get iron golems over by your doors. This is not a big deal. These guys don't affect anything at all. Now, if you're clever, you could probably turn this into an iron farm and witch farm in one, which I think would be pretty cool, but that's not going to be part of this tutorial. Before we get into the tutorial, I do want to explain some fundamentals of how exactly this system works. So this right here is of course our villager breeder. All the babies that are born from this system will be attracted to the village over here, and that is because our village is 21 blocks away from that thing over there. So there's an entire chunk gap in between this build and this one over here. So basically that just allows all of our villagers to easily escape this little area and go down into our water chutes and fall down this funnel and all of that stuff and just get pushed into our kill chamber. Now, because we're dropping our babies 70 blocks, they leave that village and allow this breeder to keep infinitely breeding more villagers, which is very important, obviously. So as soon as the babies fall down here and get into this water stream and stuff, they actually join this secondary, lonely, tiny little village over here. And that is pretty much it for the inner workings. That is why we have all of that stuff way high up in the sky instead of just like right down here at ground level. And let's finally get into the tutorial, shall we? Before we do though, there's going to be a full world download in the description of the video. For all of you who are interested, you can hop on here and check out exactly how this witch farm is built up and copy it block for block if you want to, because this is not going to be a full block by block tutorial. Honestly, most of this stuff will work exactly the same and be perfectly fine, even if you build it completely differently than what I've done. Like all these water streams, they're just water streams. You don't need to build them exactly as I have here. So don't worry about being, perfectly exact with the tutorial. The only thing that you really need to build exact is the villager breeder and the village, which is over here. So let's start with a little bit of preparation for our farm. You need to go ahead and get 3 chunks marked out in your world, and they should be in a line just like so. So your first chunk is going to be chunk 1. Of course, this is going to be for your villager breeder. Chunk 2 is mainly going to be for your funnel to collect all of your baby villagers, and also for a tiny bit of redstone. And then chunk 3 is going to be where most of your stuff is happening. You got your secondary village, your like lightning detection, your kill chamber for all of your witches, and your main upper village as well. So again, go ahead and mark out those 3 chunks, and then you want to go up 70 blocks from your ground level and mark out those 3 same chunks up here in the air. So I went ahead and marked out our 3 chunks here in the air, again 70 blocks above where our lower infrastructure is going to be. We're going to focus on the villager breeder first, and then we'll get to the little funnel thing, and then we'll worry about the village after it. So our village breeder is going to be a full 16 by 16 thing. From this corner right here to this corner over here is 16 blocks diagonally, meaning the inner edge of this wall is a 14 by 14 area. That keeps the entire build entirely within one chunk, which is extremely useful. So each one of our villager breeding cells or villager breeding pairs is going to take up a 2 by 1 area, very similar to what you see right here. They're basically just in minecarts on rails with water logged, rails under them, and that pushes all the babies out. And that's a very, very reliable system. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So if you want to go ahead and build a 25 pair villager breeder, then this is the exact layout that you need right here. As you can see, it is pretty simple. All of these lengthwise are 1 block apart, and all of these widthwise are 2 blocks apart until you get to the very right side where they are 3 blocks apart. Slight asymmetry, but what can you do? So right now, you basically just want to go ahead and mark out these 2 by 1 areas, make sure they are 2 blocks off the ground, of course, and I would still suggest laying them out in this exact order, even if you don't plan on having 25 pairs. That way you leave room for expansion in the future, and you don't need to tear down anything if you do want to expand. So go ahead and get these 2 by 1 areas marked out, and we'll come back to this and actually build up the breeder in a little bit. And now you want to build up the little funnel that is on the front of this. This is of course in your secondary chunk facing towards your village. And there's not really anything to do a tutorial on here. It's basically just a little water stream pointing straight down 70 blocks. So take your screenshots and build that in your world. So now we want to install our village and detection villager over here as well. The first thing that we're going to do is count over from the very edge of our breeder by 19 blocks. The first 16 of that should be the entirety of our second chunk, and then it should be 17, 18, and 19. You want to go over to the left by 1 and down by a block as well, and then just place a sticky piston facing upwards right there. So this block right here is where your villager should be standing, and that is going to be fine for detecting all of your doors. So now what you need to do is build up a little 4 block tall tube around this guy just to kind of contain him in there and keep him from falling out. You could probably also fill in these corners if you wanted to. So the very top of that tube is going to line up perfectly with the very bottom of where all of your doors are going to be going. And basically you want to place down 1 oak door for every villager that you have, and then about 10 more. So we have a total of 51 villagers in our 25 pair breeder. There's going to be 50 villagers over here and 1 villager over there. I'm going to place down about 65 doors, and that'll be more doors than we need, which is lovely. So this back wall right here, if you want a little bit more reference for that, that is going to be 21 blocks back from that edge of our villager breeder. So this is 21 blocks long right here, and this would be our 22nd block. This entire section of doors over here is entirely contained within our 3rd chunk, as you can see. So that was surprisingly difficult to explain. Hopefully it all made sense for you guys. Now what you want to do is just go 3 blocks above where your little villager tube is, and just put in a little lightning shield. Just something like 4 by 5 or 5 by 5 is totally fine. That'll prevent the villager that we're going to put in there from actually getting struck by lightning. And now we're going to build up our counting circuit, which is basically just going to go right underneath the bottom of our funnel. So you want to have a tripwire hook right underneath the bottom of your funnel, and then the left side tripwire hook is going to go right on a dropper facing to the side. That's going to be facing into a chest, and just go ahead and put a couple items in there right now. So we're going to have a comparator reading from that dropper, just like so, pointing into a block, which is then going to have a repeater coming out of it like so. And that repeater is just going to go into a redstone line, which runs straight into this piston over here. Pretty simple business, nothing too complicated at all. And basically how this works is that anytime that there is an item in this dropper, your farm will be active. So if you want 100 villagers from this farm, go ahead and put about a stack and 40 of items in there. If you want like 120 something guys, go ahead and put 2 stacks in there. Every item equals approximately 1 villager. So that's everything that we need to do up here for the time being. We will come back a little bit later and install the rest of our villager breeder, but now we need to go straight down from our little funnel and build up all of our lower water streams. I'm just gonna do a little overview of what I've got built here because it's all extremely simple and you can build it pretty much any way that you like and it will all function exactly the same. So I just have like an overly large catchment area to catch all the babies, and I'm just pushing them to a little 2x1 area that goes down to an even more simple water stream where we then just kind of keep on pushing them along. The slabs make sure that they don't get stuck underneath that area, and they just keep on bobbing along until they get to a very, very simple little water elevator. They go up and over, and then they fall into the kill chamber over here. Nothing too complicated. You should see exactly how to build all of this stuff just from looking at it. It's really not that complicated. Over here, we just have a couple hoppers pointing into our chest and some slabs on top of it, some trapdoors so you can hit in there and nothing ever escapes, no baby villagers or anything. And then we have just a couple of pistons with blocks on their face so that you can suffocate all the mobs in there. So now we're going to start building behind our kill chamber, and the first thing that we're going to do is put down our secondary village. You want 2 solid blocks, face those blocks, and place down an oak door. Make sure that there is nothing above that oak door, and that is all you need to do. That was really easy. So now we're going to install our actual lightning detector, and this is going to go right behind our kill chamber. And if you build your kill chamber too large, the lightning might not actually strike all of the villagers in there. So I would recommend just keeping your kill chamber about 3 blocks wide. So we're gonna go ahead and just build up a little cage on the backside here, just kind of like so. Just kind of build it up by 3 blocks tall and you'll be totally fine. We want to get a piston on the right side here facing inwards with some carpet on the front of that. And now we want to make a little bit of a hopper clock. So you want 2 hoppers facing into each other, just like so. A comparator reading from those hoppers going into a block with redstone next to them, and do that on the other side as well. You want 2 pistons facing towards each other and a redstone block between them, and then just get yourself an observer facing that piston right there. And what you want to do is also throw in approximately a stack and a half of items, and that will activate once every couple of minutes, giving the witch that we're going to put in here plenty of time to heal, because of course witches will drink the healing potions and they will basically never die, which is really, really convenient. So what you want to do is of course get yourself a witch, a name tag, and a channeling trident as well. So go ahead and throw that channeling trident just on that carpet, and then pop in your witch. How you get the witch is up to you, and then just go ahead and name tag it as well. And that is pretty much it. So what you may need to do is whenever you like relog or unload this area, that channeling trident may need to be thrown again. That way it actually strikes the witch with lightning when it's during a thunderstorm. So keep that in mind. If it's not getting struck during a thunderstorm, you probably just need to throw that trident again. So that is actually everything that you need to do for the lower part of your witch farm. What we're going to do now is take a look at how you build up each one of your individual villager breeding cells. And this is actually a surprisingly simple process. So this is going to be our little 2x1 area where our guys sit in their mine carts. And we just need to kind of surround this in a little bit of solid blocks just to keep in the water. So on the backside here, you want glass blocks. All of the rest of these ones should be solid blocks. You want 2 signs down here and 2 signs on those blocks as well. That is just to hold in the water. Place down your water sources and then put some waterlogged rails in there as well. And above that, you just want a couple of trapdoors. That prevents the babies from bobbing up and down and also prevents them from picking up food as well, which is really lovely. So now what you need to do is kind of run a powered rail line up through the corner of this block. This will allow the minecarts to actually get up in there. So just go ahead and get your villagers and minecarts from whatever source you want and just kind of run them up in there. It's actually surprisingly easy dealing with villagers in this way, and as you can see, that is all there is to it. You want to go ahead and surround these guys in a little bit of glass, and that is your entire villager parrot breeder done. So the first part of building this up in your villager breeder is of course installing all of the floor blocks and wall blocks as well. After that, go ahead and get in your signs, and then from there you can go ahead and install all of your water sources as well. After that, get your rail lines in place. And then once your rails are in place, also install your trapdoors. And then finally, also get your villagers in place as well and surround them with, of course, glass blocks of your choice. So what I would suggest doing is just transporting 3 villagers up here to your breeder, 2 for your first pair and 1 for your detection villager. All of the babies that these guys have can actually be recycled to fill in the rest of your villager cells, which is really lovely. And you can actually build up all of these first before filling them with villagers, which is kind of cool, because what you can do is you can run a super sneaky rail line up and diagonal through all of these blocks and actually fill in these villager cells this way. So we can go ahead and demonstrate that now. Villager, minecart, you go right up into that cell. Another villager, another minecart, and as you can see, that is a pretty dead simple process to fill all of these in after you've actually gotten done building them all. And before we end off, there are just a couple of things that I want to mention. First of all, these guys shaking in minecarts is just a bug. It doesn't affect anything besides potentially giving you a headache. And also you want to install a lightning shield 3 or 4 blocks above your actual villager breeder, and just make sure that that covers the entirety of the breeder. You do not want lightning hitting this thing. That is the opposite of good. And also, you are going to need a pretty hefty supply of crops to actually feed all these guys. Lucky for you, I have another tutorial for a crop farm that is actually extremely reliable. So you're going to need about 4 layers of crop farms to actually provide all of this with crops. And you will need to build those about 70 blocks away from your main witch farm. Otherwise, it's going to be broken. Your farmers will want to run towards your actual witch farm. So as you can see from our second chunk here, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 other chunks of space in between our crop farms and our witch farm. And don't forget to put a little villager in this chamber over here. You may also need some light sources on this side of the farm as well. Just kind of plaster them around wherever. And if your farm is not working, if it's not breeding anything, make sure you have items in this dropper, and you may also need to trade with this villager and potentially some of the villagers over here as well, just to raise your villager score. It might take a while for them to start breeding, but make sure they have enough food and make sure you have traded enough. And make sure you use oak doors for your village. If you do not, then it will not work because of bugs. So make sure you use oak doors and everything will be lovely. And that is going to do it for this Bedrock Edition tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope that you did enjoy. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, then of course hit me up in the comment section down below. I'm always trying to help you guys out as much as I possibly can. If you did enjoy this tutorial, then please do leave a like on the video. Consider sharing it with your friends as well, as this is really one of the best sources of gunpowder on the Bedrock Edition, and in general, just like the best witch farm around. So yeah, maybe share it around if you got anyone that's interested. If you're new here, maybe consider subscribing as well so you guys don't miss future tutorials like this one. And of course, thank you again for watching. I will see you down in the comment section and in the next one. And then there was silence.